Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about Elizabeth of Bavaria, aka Princess Sisi. And although you probably are thinking of a pretty princess that doesn't get her hands dirty and I don't know, probably quite boring kind of lifestyle, nothing could be more wrong. Okay, so Elizabeth of Bavaria, also known as Sisi, she, as I said, you probably don't imagine just what are these? These are called agretti, and maybe Giacomo, whilst I'm talking, can Google how we say that in English, because I don't know. So, it takes forever to clean them because they've got like these dirty little roots here. But anyway, my mum, when I was a little girl, used to tell me that to get me to eat them, she would say that it was mermaid food. That I would be a mermaid if I ate them. Anyway, so yes, Elizabeth of Bavaria, as the name implies, was born in Bavaria, and she was born into noble's family, a royal family basically. And although her part of the family was not so rich anymore, and not, I mean, compared to other royals, I guess, she wasn't that rich. And she got to have a lifestyle which was quite different from other princesses of her status, because her dad was actually a kind of a bit of a liberal, and he got up to all sorts. He also cheated on her mum quite a bit as well. So I think that as far as I understand, like Sisi's mother was a little bit ashamed of their lifestyle and of the fact that their palace wasn't as fancy as other people in their position. So they didn't invite a lot of people over, and they didn't have a lot of these kind of situations where they had to show off all their wealth and all their, you know, etiquette. So she got to run wild compared to other princesses of her time. So she would go out a lot in the forest. She would go with her dad. She would horse ride too. So she was obsessed with horse riding from an early age. Okay. Now, okay, so Giacomo told me this is called monk's beard for whatever weird reason. So yeah, so Sisi, her mom was kind of like really more posh than her dad was, and she was actually related to the royal family of Austria. In fact, the mother of the future king was Sisi's mum's sister. So it was Sisi's aunt, okay? Now, of course, as sisters of that position do, they're like, okay, so what are we gonna sort out for our kids when they grow up? Well, why don't we get them married? Because who is gonna make a better couple and give us better grandchildren than first cousins? Yay, incest. So they decide to create a kind of this perfect match between Francis Joseph, which is the son of the Queen of Austria, and the daughter of you know, the girl, this woman living in Bavaria, which is not actually Sisi though. So she wants, I can't remember what Sisi's mum's called, but whatever. Her mum actually decides to have Sisi's older sister, which is probably more kind of better at being a princess and more fancy and less like getting dirty in the woods, decides to have her marry the future king of Austria. So they organize in honor of his birthday to have them meet, and it's going to be all perfect, and they're going to meet each other, and they're going to get them married off. But at this meeting for his birthday, he sees Sisi, we call her Sisi in Italian, but Sisi, well, Elizabeth, and falls madly in love with her. And he's like, Mom, I want to marry that girl. So to give you an idea, she was very, very beautiful. Long, you know, chestnut brown hair, really pretty. And I think she was just also very kind of free kind of person. So probably since he was really under the thumb of his mother, that attracted him a lot too. Apparently, Elizabeth had really bad teeth. It was recorded that she had terrible teeth, and her mother-in-law, her future mother-in-law, kept reminding her of that too. I think her mother-in-law was a bit of a, well, so this is like the one time he stands up to his mom, by the way, and is like, no, I really want to marry that girl, mommy, please. And so it is decided that he is going to marry her. She is very young at this point. He's quite a bit older. So obviously in this day and age, it would be viewed very differently. And she doesn't actually want to marry him. I mean, she's not that into the whole idea. It is said that she literally, when they asked her, do you like him? She was like, well, I'd like him more if he wasn't king. Okay, or if he wasn't going to be king. So imagine that, all right? So however, it's not like she does get a lot of to decide, as women did at the time. So they get married, and she has to go off to live in Austria, and she hates it there. And this is where, like, she's just very different from other women in her position. She does not like all the pressure and all the etiquette of the court. She definitely doesn't like her mother-in-law, who's horrible. And she's very, very also reacts differently to things which were normal to everyone else. So for example, there was this thing where it was a tradition that the queen, the empress actually, should not wear the same pair of shoes twice. So every day it was tradition that they would have to have a totally new pair of shoes, and the other ones would just get given away or thrown away or whatever. And she was like, this is BS. Of course I'm going to wear the same shoes again. This is ridiculous. So she just stopped doing that tradition totally, which is like most women would probably be like, I'm fine with having a new pair of shoes every day. She was not for that at all. She was also interested in just going out and having fun in different ways. There's many occasions that are recorded during her lifetime in which she literally just ran away in secret and did her own thing, getting her often into trouble, okay? Now, she will end up standing up for herself quite a lot, but it's difficult for her at the very beginning because she's so young. So when she marries Francis, she is 17, and the year later she has her first baby, which I feel it's not even like the youngest that we're gonna come across in these videos. But so she has her first kid, and her mother-in-law is like, I am not gonna have you raise the heirs to the throne, or, you know, members of this family, even though they're literally your children, because you're probably no good at this. So I am gonna be the one raising them for you. And so she gets to decide everything, and she literally doesn't even get to see her kids. You know, they're just always involved in whatever the mother-in-law is deciding. So she doesn't even get to raise her own children. 2 years later, after the birth of her first, so she first has two daughters, okay, Sophie and Gisela. 2 years after the birth of Sophie, she actually manages to put her foot down and say, no, I'm taking Sophie with us on a trip to wherever it was. And during that trip, Sophie dies. I mean, to be fair, kids died a lot. And I mean, it's not like you could die for like a fever, cold, right? And she dies. And this is just so traumatizing for Elizabeth, for Sisi, that at this point, she's already been told repeatedly that she's not the right person to be their mother. And so she's like, okay, fine, you raise them then. I'm obviously no good at being a mom because it's because of me that she's died. And so she just guilt trips herself enormously. And the thing about Sisi is that she'll have a lot of mental struggles throughout all her life. I mean, there were times in which she literally thought she was, you know, someone else. She struggled a lot with mental health. Also with her body appearance, she starved herself. She was always trying to be thinner and thinner. She was not a happy person. She struggled a lot, okay? And the death of her daughter certainly did not help. Her use of cocaine probably didn't help much either. She literally injected cocaine. I mean, a lot of people did in those days. Then she has her third child, which is a boy, Rudolph, and who is going to be the heir to the throne, right? And I'll tell you how that goes later, but that's also not a very happy ending. During this period, so I believe it's like a few years after that she's been married. I think it's in like 58 that he is born. Not long after this, she does her first trip to Corfu. Now, she'll travel a lot by boat. Now, she loves water. She loves the sea and water. This is where she feels, this is her happy place. This is where she feels free, okay? During one of these trips to Corfu, she even has herself, during a storm, tied up to a chair on the front of the boat so that she can have the waves and the rain hit towards her. Like, her ladies in waiting are like, you are nuts, and they're like hiding away, like where they can't be touched by the rain, and she's just outside, like sucking in all of it, all right, absorbing all of the thunder and the rain. Okay, absorbing the thunder, that's another thing, but she's loving it. Okay, she will actually, years later, during these years, this is her first trip to Corfu, but later on she'll end up building her own palace on Corfu. And she learns Greek, she learns ancient Greek, she's obsessed with the culture there. She goes and visits the locals in their homes as well. And the Palace of Corfu is still there today, in fact. And when she was staying in Corfu, she would have fabric hanging on the sides, creating like a little corridor on the beach so she could reach the water and she could go skinny dipping and bathe totally naked. Okay, she was really a wild, wild creature at heart. Okay, in 1867, she is crowned along with Francis as basically emperors of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now, this is important because Hungary had always tried to rebel and gain its own independence, okay, from Austria. And in fact, they had also tried to kill the king, okay. However, Sisi falls madly in love with Hungary and with everything Hungarian culture. And so she is the one, that's why Hungarians adore her. She is the one that's able to convince the king to create what's called a compromise, okay? So the compromise is made where they don't have their independence, however, they have a higher status than the other states which are reigned over by Austria. So that's why it's the Austro-Hungarian Empire from this moment onwards, rather than just the Austrian Empire, because they are like their own state but still part of the empire. Does that make sense? And part of this this kind of work that's been made to create this compromise, so the kind of political exchanges which are made are done by Sisi herself. She's very much part of the kind of the interaction with the leaders, the political leaders and the representatives of Hungary. And one of those representatives is a liberal called Andrassy. Now, a lot has been said about this relationship between Sisi and Andrassy. A lot of people like to believe that there was, in fact, that he was her lover. I like to believe it just because I wish that she was happy for just once. So I kind of hope that they were lovers. Some people even say that the last daughter that she had, that she will have soon, was the daughter of Andrassy. It is most likely, though, that their relationship was only platonic. However, he is very, very a bit of a rebel, and they also called him the pretty hangman because there was sketches circulating in Austria of him being portrayed as hanged because he was viewed as such a rebel and a revolutionary. So the two of them will be the ones which will really work on this compromise. There was a famous occasion in which, whilst they are working on this kind of pact in between, you know, Austrians and Hungarians, there was a ball that was organized, and no one wanted to, basically the Hungarians and the Austrian ladies, no one wanted to dance with each other. So she opens the dance. The dance is dancing with Andrassy, which obviously created a lot of like scandal, and then she faints in his arms. Okay. Actually, she faints because probably because her corset was so freaking tight, and also it turns out that she was pregnant. Okay, so so she really is the one to create this this compromise and to create this this alliance, basically, and it's during this time that this very strong relationship, probably platonic, starts with Andrassy, and it will continue forever. They will continue writing to each other, and he also sends her some books that are considered illegal, which are about anarchy, and she actually is a bit of a sympathizer towards anarchist ideals, and he's not a full-blown anarchist himself, but they just kind of play with the ideas a little bit, the two of them, and she definitely is a sympathizer organizer for the cause of definitely very revolutionary ideas for the time. So she is a bit of a revolutionary empress. In fact, I was telling you before about her passion for water and for sailing. She will often write that she feels only totally free when she's going. She writes beautiful poetry, in fact. She writes that she only feels free when she's going from one place to the next. Only when she is in transit does she feel really free, and especially on the water on boat. So much so that in her 50s, she will have an anchor tattooed. Her husband literally doesn't even know that she has an anchor tattooed until she dies. Like when she's dead, he's like, I did not know she had an anchor tattooed. So the last child that she has, this daughter that she was pregnant with when she faints amongst the arms of Andrassi, she's the only one that she's going to raise herself. And she stands up finally to her mother-in-law and is like, I'm raising this one. I'm going to raise this daughter. And so she has a much closer, obviously, relationship with her. During these years, when she's a little bit older, she's like in her late 40s, she's finally trying to just get away as much as possible. Even before, she always was trying to get away. There was a famous case in which during Carnival, when her husband was away, okay, and he loved her, by the way, he loved her dearly, and she loved him too. It's just like she was just married him too young, and she probably didn't even want to marry him in the first place, and she cared about him, but it's like she didn't like this lifestyle, okay. So he cheated on her from time to time, because I guess all of them did, and he will cheat on her a lot later on. But I mean, at the beginning she cares, but afterwards she doesn't even care anymore. But they do have a good relationship, and they do definitely love each other, and he's madly passionate about her. It's just she just doesn't really care about him in that passionate way that he does about her. Does that make sense? So he's away on one of his, work trips, and she runs away from court in secret, and during Carnival, and her lady-in-waiting, she has this really strong relationship with this particular lady-in-waiting, which will be with her for all her life. She's a noble woman that literally will never marry, because usually you'd be a lady in waiting for a while, then you when you get married, you're not allowed to be a lady in waiting anymore, and you move on to create your own life, right? Irma will stay with her all her life, and after the death of Elizabeth, she will continue to just think about her, and even donate objects of her to be to museums and stuff, and write about her. She was obsessed with Elizabeth. A movie was actually made about this relationship that kind of depicts this relationship even as a little bit like homoerotic, okay, as if there was this almost like this tormented love relationship between them. Who knows? But anyway, so a lot of what we know about Sisi comes from her, and she is very, very dedicated to her. So Irma and Sisi run away during Carnival in secret, and they're dressed up as dominoes, a red and a yellow domino, okay, in secret with a mask and everything, and they go to a carnival where Sisi flirts with this guy called Fritz, and he finally figures out that it's her, but she never admits to it, and she doesn't let him take the mask away. And when he tries to take the mask away from her face, she hits his hand away with her fan, and he takes the fan away, and so she then runs home. It's very dramatic, and he actually stays with this fan until the end of his life, and he will be actually interviewed by the biographer of Sisi, who is sent there by Irma. Irma says to the biographer, go talk to Fritz, because actually they continued to write to each other for years. So Sisi continued to write letters to this guy, pretending, saying, am I really Sisi? Am I not? Actually, I'm just a yellow domino, just like kind of teasing him for all his life. And he still has the letters when he dies in his 80s, which he shows, and the fan that he shows to the biographer of Sisi. So she's always trying to, getting into trouble, doing all these things, and, trying to run away. She loves horseback riding. She horse rides a lot, and that's where, like, another happy place of hers is where she runs away on this horse. And she's one of the best equestrians of her time. Again, very tormented, because this is not the lifestyle she wants to live. And then she also has some horrible things happen to her. So the son, her one and only son Rudolph, who's supposed to become king, when he's older, he actually, because he's supposed to marry someone that he doesn't want to marry, and he has this lover, which is this baroness, he actually does this murder suicide. He kills himself and his lover, and that's how he ends. And this is tragic for her. I mean, he also had some mental health issues. This is tragic for Sisi because she's like, I literally didn't want this life for me, and I end up putting my son in this life, and he ends up committing suicide because of these pressures of this life that I didn't want for any of us. So very, very tragic for her. This is when she finally builds her palace on Corfu so she can stay away from court as much as possible. In these years, she discovers that there's this actress called Katrina, which is very beautiful. Everyone's crazy about her. And she finds out that her husband has a crush on this actress, Katrina. And whilst another woman you might imagine would be like jealous and stuff, she's like, oh, this might be a way for me to get out of here more often. So she literally goes to meet Katrina, makes friends with Katrina, has a portrait commissioned, commissions a portrait of Katrina and gifts it to her husband, organizes the meeting and is like, great, she can take care of you, so I can be away from the court as much as possible and I won't feel guilty because now you have your lover to take care of you. So she literally organizes for him to meet the girl that he has a crush on so that she can fill in for her. That's how much she doesn't want to be there, okay? She even says to him, declares to him, like, you should, if I die ever, you can remarry. You should remarry. And in fact, I want you to marry Katrina if I die. That's what she says to her husband, okay? We talked about Irma being an important character in the life of Sisi. Another very important woman in her life is Fanny. Fanny is her hairdresser. Her hairdresser is a very important part of her life because Sisi has hair so thick and so gorgeous and so long that it is an ordeal to take care of it. Very, very long, like to her knees is the length of the hair of Sisi. And taking care of it is very, very complicated. To wash it, you wash it with egg and with cognac. Fanny washes it once every 3 weeks and then brushes it every day and puts it in a hairdo every day, which is very complex, which only Fanny can do. Fanny, when she gets married, Sisi so much doesn't want to let go of Fanny as her hairdresser that Fanny is the only woman who's allowed to be part of her entourage even after that she's married, and her husband actually gets hired at court so that she can stay working for Sisi even after that she's married, okay? She's obsessed with her hair, so much so that she gets angry with Fanny every time that she finds hair on the hairbrush because she doesn't want to lose any of her hair. So much so that Fanny literally has to figure out a way that when she brushes it, she gets rid of the hair that's on the brush really fast so she doesn't get caught with any hair on the brush. That's how obsessed Sisi is with her hair. And she's famous for this hair. Fanny apparently looked a little bit like Sisi. So from a distance, and for people that didn't know them, and they had similar hair. So sometimes she would send Fanny to pretend to be her at places where she didn't want to go, okay? And she literally, if Fanny was ill and couldn't set up her hair, she would forego the meeting. Sisi would be like, I can't meet anyone if I don't have my hair set up, and Fanny's the only one that can do my hair, okay? Sisi did have an obsession with her looks, okay? She was a little bit obsessed about growing old and about not looking good and about her figure. She actually had a gym, which literally ladies like her of her position in society did not do these kind of exercises. She would do exercises with rings, like hanging from rings, and like gymnastics, which were almost like acrobatic, it was just crazy for women of her situation to be doing. Like, people thought it was crazy that she had this, and she literally had the gym set up in her house so she could continue training every day, and she was always trying to be on a diet and keep fit and keep thin. She was also obsessed with female beauty in general. She collected portraits of beautiful women, and she had various people that she sent out throughout Europe to collect portraits of beautiful women for her collection, okay? As I said, she did not like the idea of growing old, of growing ugly, and I guess destiny kind of fulfilled her wish because she died definitely not old. She died at 61. It's reported that she was still gorgeous, even in her late 50s. Her Greek teacher fell in love with her, and he was like in his 20s. She was still looked so gorgeous. She died at 61, and it's quite ironic because the man who killed her was actually an anarchist who probably, if he'd known her a little bit better and knew her ideals, would not have killed her. He wasn't even wanting to kill her. It's just that he wanted to kill this other royal, who I don't know who it was, the Duke of Orleans. He wanted to kill the Duke of Orleans, and he missed him. He came into town to kill him, missed him by a day, and so he's like, who else can I kill? There must be some other royal I can kill. And so he kind of decided to kill her because she was the only one there around. So they didn't even realize that she was dying because he ran up to her and he knifed her, but because her corset was so tight, she didn't feel like the knife go through because it was just all held in together, but she was internally bleeding. So it was too late by the time they realized. So after a while, she fainted, and then they realized that she was bleeding, and she died. When Francis Joseph was told about her death, he was just said, "You have no idea how much I love this woman." He was so distraught. It is said that maybe there was a secret wedding afterwards between him and Katharina. However, he was very, very much distraught by this death. So I hope this has told you a few things that maybe you didn't know about this incredible woman. She's been portrayed a lot in the media. Various series have been done about her recently, which I feel that they kind of suck, to be honest. But there's these movies that were made, what was it, in the 60s, that were a lot more, I think, representative of what she really was. And also the actress that was chosen for her really looked like her quite a lot. And it was like, I believe it was 2 or 3 movies that were made. So insert picture here of her. Definitely very romantic story, but also so much about her being such a rebel, I feel, is not said. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this very fascinating character of history. And let me know in the comments below who else you would like me to tell you about. And remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.